Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, today we will be continuing the series, which I entitled, for now, The Cross. I've explained to you in the previous lessons why I have entitled this series, The Cross, and it's because it's specifying some beliefs of the majority of Christians who are becoming extremely visible in the days of, let's say, protest, and using this religion in a way in which I feel, to me, is questionable. So the best way to tackle any issue is at its root. And for me, the root is, I'm presuming, an incomplete understanding of not only the subject of Christianity, which I use loosely to mean the formal church and its adherents. And I'm here to distinguish that from the message of Prophet Jesus. We say Isa in Arabic, because as I mentioned, my goal is to clarify without pressure, in all goodwill to all. I would like to begin, however, with the first verse that is commonly used and known by Muslims everywhere. And I think it's appropriate because, after all, it's my lesson and it's what I believe. Let us turn to Al-Imran, which is the 3rd chapter of the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل آمنا بالله وما أنزل علينا وما أنزل على إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى والنبيون من ربهم لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون ومن يبتغ غير الإسلام دينا فلن يقبل منه وهو في الآخرة من الخاسرين. This verse begins with probably the most common verse specifying the unity of the message. And I've used this verse before in previous lessons because it's so clear. Allah says here, who believes in Allah and what was revealed to us. And what was revealed to Abraham, Ishmael, Ishaq, Isaac, wa Ya'qub, Jacob, wal Asbat, and the tribes, wa ma utiya Musa, and what was given to Musa, Moses, wa Isa, Jesus, wa nabiyuna min rabbihim, and all of the prophets from their Lord. لا نفرق بين أحد منهم. We do not distinguish between any of them. ونحن له مسلمون. And then the very famous verse is ومن يبتغي غير الإسلام دينا فلن يقبل منه. Whoever wishes for other than Islam as their religion, it will not be accepted from them. And he will be in the afterlife of the losers. So I want to be sure that I have that as a preface, always. Tawheed is all through the Quran. Many say the Quran is Tawheed, which is the unity of the message that all prophets came to bring us from the only Creator who called himself and calls himself, named himself Allah. That being said, I would like to bring forward now some issues regarding Jesus and the crucifixion that I really need to have on my conscience, that I have clarified it now. I'm really hoping mainly the listeners are Christian, because the Muslims already know this, and I've titled the lessons deliberately about the cross because I'm hoping that they will have a chance to hear something perhaps clearly that they didn't hear before. This is also in the surah called Al-Imran. It's the 3rd chapter in the Quran, verse 59 and 60, for anyone that would like to look more about it. يا أهل الكتاب لما تلبسون الحق بالباطل وتكتمون الحق وأنتم تعلمون. O you who have been given the book, why do you cover over the truth with falsehood and hide the truth, and you know? وقالت طائفة من أهل الكتاب آمنوا بالذي أنزل على الذين آمنوا وجه النهار وأكفروا آخره لعلهم يرجعون. And one group from those who were given the book said, we believe in what was revealed على وجه النهار. In the beginning of the day, we're going to believe, and then at the end of the day, أكفر آخره, we're going to disbelieve, so that they will come back to us and not believe in the other messengers, or not believe in except what we believe in. ولا تؤمنوا إلا لمن تبع دينكم. So don't believe unless they follow your religion. Allah says, Al-Huda, Huda Allah. Allah's guidance is the guidance. أن يؤتى أحد مثل ما أوتيتم أو يحاجوكم عند ربكم قل إن الفضل بيد الله. All the favor is with Allah. يؤتيه من يشاء والله واسع عليم. يختص برحمته من يشاء. He will specify whom he will for his mercy. والله ذو فضل عظيم. In other words, Allah is going to choose who he chooses to become who he chooses, whether it be a Muslim or a Christian or that word that I don't like, that I always say. People say Jew, but as we go on in the lessons, you will understand why I won't say it. And also in Al-Imran, verse 59, إِنَّ مَثَلَ عِيسَى عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلَ آدَمَ. The similitude of Jesus with Allah is like that of Adam. خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونَ. He created him out of mud, dirt, soft dirt. Many say mud is the best, you can say, way of describing it. In other words, it could be molded into a shape. Again, إِنَّ مَثَلَ عِيسَى عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلَ آدَمَ. Isa's similitude is like that of Adam's. خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونَ. الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ فَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْمُمْتَرِينَ. Allah said He created him, and then He said, Kun fayakun. Be, and he was. In other words, the verb kana in Arabic cannot easily be translated because we don't use, the structure is. We don't really use that structure, but it's the closest we can get when we're trying to translate the Quran. In other words, Allah created him and then he came to be, as we would say, came to be. And then Allah said, the truth is from your Lord, so don't be of the deniers. Now, if we put these verses all together, you get the sense of there's a unity. All prophets came with the same thing. We don't differentiate among them. Often, people will say, oh, you care about Muhammad. Muhammad is your big deal. And it's funny because when I was a new Muslim, I used to believe that. I used to think, well, I didn't believe it, but I used to say, why do they always talk about Muhammad? It's the same thing that I thought when I was a Catholic in nun school. Why are you always talking about Jesus? Don't you ever talk about up in heaven, the one who doesn't come down? They used to call him God the Father. But I never called him God the Father. I would say the one that doesn't come down. And likewise, when I was becoming a Muslim, I used to think, why is there so much talk about Muhammad? I want to hear about the one that doesn't come down. Well, the reason I didn't hear about that was, that's called Aqidah, the names of Allah and his attributes and what he actually is and does in this world and in the universe. Now, the reason I didn't hear about that is the same reason you're not hearing about it now. It has to do with the subject of Tawheed. Tawheed means unity. And there is only one way to have Tawheed, and it's the way Allah determined. His names are in the Quran, not all of them, but many of them, and others are in the Hadith. And if you learn these names and you understand them, Allah says you will go to paradise. And once you learn these names, you can never believe in other ways. Specifically, Trinity and partnership in Allah's power, these are things you can never, ever condone, because they are the only sin that Allah does not forgive. In Arabic, the word is shirk. It means partnership. To the point where in Arabic, modern day, standard Arabic, if you have a company, it's called a shirka. Your company, because you have partners, like stockholders, etc. So sharaka is, in Arabic, not a good word. I mean, it's okay in business, but it's not okay in theology. And now here is I'm ending with this one now. As I said, I wanted to keep it short. I'm going to give you a verse in the Quran that not many people ever bring up. And I don't understand why. Actually, I haven't heard scholars bring this up in any lessons at all. I think it's perhaps because they're not previous Christians. So for us who were previous Christians, are raised to believe in Jesus Christ the Lord crucified, when I read this verse, I was amazed, and I said, oh, many folks have questioned, were the disciples, the apostles, similar to our Sahaba? In other words, the men around the prophet who helped him and followed him and cared for him and were very, very close to him. And of course, the normal Muslims would say, no, of course not. How can you compare them to the Sahaba? And that's because they didn't understand anything about the apostles and the disciples and Jesus. But for me, it was quite clear that they were like the Sahaba, because they were a few brave men, and that's all it takes. And so this verse clarified to me, in the context that I had, which of course is not like the context of those born Muslim. There's a long story about what happened to Jesus and how he was punished by the Roman ruler and others who wanted to get rid of him. Now, as I said, I'm going to do a complete lesson, perhaps next time it will be, regarding those who turn away from their prophets. I don't use the term Jews. I use the correct term, which is called Yehud. And we'll talk about what it means and what they did, etc. Now, this verse is contained in what they did, but I'm going to stick to the last two parts and only preface it by saying there was an issue, and the enemies of prophets were hunting Jesus, and they wanted to get rid of him. They wanted to kill him. And now we will turn to Al Imran, and we're going to read the last verse, 52. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلما أحس عيسى منهم الكفر قال من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله آمنا بالله وأشهد بأننا مسلمون. I will now translate the verse. It's a very small verse, but it's a very important verse. When Jesus sensed from them al-kufr, لما حس عيسى منهم al-kufr. Minhum means from them. Who are they? Who are them here? The Yehud. And when it said he felt from them kufr, well, he was amongst them for quite some time. He was aware of them, because remember, Isa was from the tribe of Banu Israel, the descendants of, as I mentioned before, Ibrahim wa Yaqub, and Asbat means the tribes. So there's nothing wrong with being from Banu Israel. However, there was a problem, and it was an ongoing problem, where Allah sent many prophets to them and they would not accept them. Now, here, Isa hassa. It means he really felt in his heart that it's maybe hopeless, because he knew he was on his way to being executed. Because these Yehud had enough power in the region that they could, let's say, get rid of some people they didn't want around. So, فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمَ الْكُفْرِ قَالَ, he said, مَنْ أَنصَارِي إِلَى اللَّهِ, who are my helpers to Allah? Al-Ansar means those who will stick by someone who needs help. قَالَهَا الْحَوَارِيُّونَ, the disciples or apostles, whichever word you want. They're used interchangeably in Christianity. They said, نَحْنُ أَنصَارُ اللَّهِ, we are the helpers for you to Allah. آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ, we believe in Allah. وَأَشْهَدْ بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ, and we testify that we are Muslims. Notice the word Muslims. وأشهد بأننا مسلمون. Who said this? The companions of Jesus, the Hawariyun. Hawariyun means the pure ones. And that's why in the Quran Allah says, Hur al-Ain. Hur al-Ain is another phrase that has not been properly dealt with. It's been unfortunately translated as virgins, and let's not go into the descriptives of so forth and whatever they look like and how old they were. No. Hur al-Ain means the pure ones. The word al-Ain means your eye, and it also means your essence. So the disciples and the apostles were like the Sahaba in that they had the pure hearts that recognized the truth. And they had the brave hearts that were willing to stand up for the truth. And here is the clear verse that they testified that they were Muslim. And what does the word Muslim mean? Oh. The root is salama, and it means to submit. You submit. When Allah tells you something, you submit. You must submit to all prophets. You cannot say, I'll take one and not the other, as so many do. And you must not distinguish between their message. Jesus did not say he was God. He did not claim to be the creator. Allah sent him with miracles. Yes, he could revive the dead, make the blind see, heal the leper. Yes, he did. But his similitude was that of Adam, created from turab. And Allah took him up, and Allah will send him back at the end of time. I think that's enough for you today. I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah, with more news about what I would label the cross. And we will tomorrow clarify some issues of the history of the cross and why the cross, and what exactly should we feel about the cross today. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.